Most people treat their freezer like a forgotten storage unit. Stuff goes in, gets buried, and resurfaces 2 years later coated in frost. What you keep in your freezer says a lot about you. It speaks directly to your ability to survive bad weather and more nasty turns of the economy. But making the right choices of what to keep in your freezer is almost impossible if you don't know exactly what to pick. Open the wrong bag and what you're really eating is listeria, hepatitis A, and metal shards, all recalled from American freezers in the last 18 months. For anyone over 50 with a weakened immune system or stretching a fixed income, this isn't just food poisoning. It's a hospital stay disguised as Tuesday night convenience. In today's video, we're exposing 20 frozen foods you absolutely need in your freezer to keep you safe, save money, and protect your health. We'll expose the recalls they hoped you'd miss, the industry scams inflating your grocery bill, and the brands that are actually safe. From shocking information on terrible industry practices to clever tricks you can apply right away, we expose it all. Let's break it down. But first, take a second to subscribe so you never miss important information like this ever again. 1. Frozen spinach. Here's something worth losing sleep over. In October 2025, Snowpack Foods issued a nationwide recall of their frozen spinach. The reason? Listeria monocytogenes. That's a bacteria that causes serious infections and can be fatal for vulnerable people. The FDA found contamination in their Del Mar and Snowpack brands sold in stores across the country. If you're over 60 or have a compromised immune system, listeria isn't a mild stomach bug. It can put you in the hospital or worse. Does that mean frozen spinach is off the table? No, it means you need a system. Check the FDA recall list once a month. Write the purchase date on every bag. Stick with brands that print clear lot codes so you can trace exactly what you're eating. Here's why it's still worth buying. Fresh spinach starts losing nutrients the second it's harvested. Frozen spinach gets processed and sealed within hours of picking, locking in vitamins at their peak. And the volume difference is staggering. A single cup of frozen spinach contains the equivalent of roughly 10 cups fresh. Your freezer does the work of an entire produce drawer. The average American household throws out nearly half the fresh produce it buys. Frozen spinach sits in the freezer for months without losing quality, ready whenever you need it. 3 ways to use it. Stir a handful into your morning scrambled eggs. No prep, no chopping, just extra iron on your plate. Drop it frozen into jarred marinara while it heats for pasta night. Toss a portion into soup during the last 5 minutes of cooking. Vegetables handled without any extra thought. But spinach isn't the only frozen food with hidden risks. 2. Frozen berries. The fresh berry display at your grocery store is mostly marketing. Those shiny strawberries in the plastic clamshell? They were harvested before they ripened, then treated with ethylene gas to turn red during a 2-week trip across the country. They look good. They don't taste like much. Frozen berries get picked at full ripeness and processed within hours. The flavor and nutrition are captured at the best possible moment. But here's the serious part. In 2023, the FDA and CDC traced a hepatitis A outbreak to frozen organic strawberries. The contaminated berries came from farms in Baja California, Mexico, and were sold at Costco, Trader Joe's, and other major chains. People were hospitalized, and the strain was genetically identical to one that caused a 2022 outbreak from fresh strawberries grown in the same region. This doesn't mean you should avoid frozen berries. It means you should know what you're buying. Check lot codes. Look up recalls before you eat something that's been sitting in your freezer for months. Toss anything questionable. When you find a safe source, the savings are significant. A bag of frozen mixed berries costs around $4. The same quantity fresh runs 12 or more. That's a 3-to-1 price difference for fruit that's often more nutritious. The antioxidants that make berries valuable, the compounds responsible for those deep reds and blues, remain stable in the freezer for over a year. Fresh berries start losing those compounds within days of harvest. Use them in your morning smoothie without washing or sorting. Fold them straight into muffin batter. Simmer a handful with a spoon of sugar for 2 minutes, and spoon it over oatmeal or yogurt. Breakfast handled for the week. But berries aren't the biggest deception in the grocery store. 3. Frozen shrimp. That fresh shrimp on ice at the seafood counter? It's theater. The vast majority of shrimp sold in the US was frozen overseas, shipped in cargo containers, and thawed at the store for display. You're paying a premium for product that's been sitting out longer than necessary. But the real problem is what's added before freezing. Many frozen shrimp are treated with sodium triplephosphate, STPP. It's an additive that forces the shrimp to absorb and retain water. Industry research shows it can inflate weight by up to 30%. That means nearly a third of what you're paying for might be tap water, not shrimp. When that extra water cooks off, you're left with rubbery, shrunken shrimp in a watery pan. Some people even develop reactions they assume are shellfish allergies, when the real culprit is the chemical additive. Here's the fix. Buy frozen shrimp and check the ingredient list. It should say shrimp and salt, nothing else. Look for no phosphates added on the label. Wild-caught tends to be cleaner than farmed. Shrimp frozen at sea reaches temperatures around minus 40 degrees within minutes of harvest. That's far colder and faster than any home freezer. The texture is actually superior to anything fresh that's been slowly thawing for days. IQF shrimp, individually quick frozen, lets you pull out exactly what you need. A handful for tacos, a dozen for pasta. No defrosting a solid brick. Run them under cold water for 15 minutes, and they're ready to cook. Tuesday night ideas. Thaw a portion while you heat oil in a skillet. Garlic shrimp over rice in 20 minutes. Toss them into a bag of frozen stir-fry vegetables with soy sauce. Or warm some tortillas and make shrimp tacos with jarred salsa. Actual dinner, minimal cleanup. But shrimp isn't the only protein with hidden problems. 4. Frozen chicken breasts. Cheap frozen chicken sometimes comes with surprises you don't want. In August 2024, Purdue recalled over 167,000 pounds of frozen chicken nuggets and tenders after consumers found metal wire embedded in the product. The contamination was traced to the manufacturing line. Then in October 2025, Hormel pulled nearly 5 million pounds of frozen chicken, one of the largest recalls that year. The problem? Metal fragments from a conveyor belt? The products had been shipped to restaurants, hotels, and institutions across the country. If you eat chicken multiple times a week, a contaminated batch could mean a broken tooth, a cut in your digestive tract, or a visit to urgent care. Protect yourself by reading labels carefully. Look for 100% chicken breast, no added solution. Check for clear plant codes and lot numbers. Buy from companies with strong safety records and actually check the FSIS recall list. Don't assume someone else is watching out for you. When you find reliable frozen chicken, the economics work in your favor. Buying in bulk and freezing portions yourself saves roughly 30% compared to weekly fresh purchases. Chicken frozen at 0 degrees stays safe indefinitely. For best texture and taste, use it within 9 months. Here's a useful trick. Pound the breast while it's still partially frozen. The firmness makes it easier to flatten evenly, which means the whole piece cooks at the same rate. No more dried out edges around a raw center. 3 easy dinners. Throw a frozen breast on a sheet pan with broccoli and potatoes, drizzle with olive oil, and roast at 400 degrees for 40 minutes. Dinner cooks itself. Drop 2 breasts in the slow cooker with salsa in the morning, then shred at dinner for tacos. Or thaw one overnight, slice it thin, and toss it on a salad with whatever dressing you have. But chicken isn't the only thing worth keeping in your freezer. 5. Frozen soup bricks. The next time you're sick, injured, or stuck at home during a storm, you'll either eat well or you won't. That decision gets made now. At 65, a bad infection or a fall isn't just an inconvenience. It can trigger a chain reaction that lands you in the hospital or a rehab facility. Having nutritious food you can heat in minutes might be the difference between recovering at home and losing your independence. Frozen soup is sick day insurance. Canned soup is the obvious fallback, but most commercial brands are sodium bombs. Some pack more than half your daily limit in a single can. When you're recovering, the last thing your blood pressure needs is 900 milligrams of salt per serving. The better approach is batch cooking low-sodium soup when you're healthy and freezing it in single-serve portions. Use silicone molds or small containers. Homemade is ideal, but if you're buying, look for Kettle and Fire, Pacific Foods, or store-brand low-sodium broths that you can portion and freeze yourself when you need them. Heat a portion in the microwave when you're home alone and don't feel like cooking. A real meal in 5 minutes. Drop a frozen brick into a pot, add leftover chicken and some frozen vegetables, and stretch one serving into 2. Or use it as cooking liquid for rice. Same effort, significantly more flavor. Now let's cover the next everyday staple that deserves freezer space. 6. Frozen peas. Peas have a shelf life problem most people don't know about. The moment a pea is picked, its sugars start converting to starch. This happens fast, within hours, not days. By the time fresh peas reach the grocery store, they've already lost much of their natural sweetness. What you're buying is often bland and starchy. Frozen peas are processed immediately after harvest, before that conversion happens. The blanching step before freezing actually makes certain nutrients more available to your body. Frozen peas aren't risk-free either. In September 2025, Endico potatoes recalled frozen peas and carrots after testing in Pennsylvania found listeria contamination. The products were distributed to 6 states, plus Washington, D.C. The pattern holds. Check lot codes, know your brands, and don't assume vegetables are automatically safe. When you buy smart, frozen peas are one of the best deals in the freezer section. They're cheap, versatile, and almost impossible to mess up. If your doctor's been telling you to eat more vegetables, this is the path of least resistance. No prep, no chopping, no forcing down bitter or mealy produce. My go-to method: toss frozen peas into pasta water during the last minute of cooking. Drain everything together, add butter and Parmesan, and dinner is done. One pot, one dish. Stir them into chicken soup straight from the freezer, 3 minutes, and they're perfect. Or microwave a bowl with butter, salt, and a pinch of dried mint for a side that's ready before the table is set. But peas aren't the only everyday item worth freezing. 7. Bread and tortillas. Bread goes stale on the counter but freezes beautifully. The science is straightforward. Stalling is caused by starch crystallization, a process that happens at room temperature but stops completely in the freezer. A loaf frozen the day you buy it will taste fresh a month later. But here's the hidden issue with store bread. The cheap loaves that stay soft for weeks often rely on dough conditioners and added sugar. Those additives keep the texture appealing, but work against your blood sugar and blood pressure. You're trading real quality for artificial softness. On a fixed income, every loaf that molds is money gone. The smarter approach is to buy better bread on sale, slice it, and freeze it in portions. Better ingredients, zero waste. A trick most people miss: toast frozen bread directly. Don't thaw it. The outside crisps up while the inside stays softer than room temperature bread. It actually improves the result. Tortillas freeze just as well. Layer them with parchment paper between each one so they separate easily. Heat in a dry skillet for 30 seconds per side, and they're as good as fresh. One more tip: slice bagels before freezing. Otherwise, you'll be hacking through a frozen disc with a dull knife, which is how people end up in the ER with hand injuries. What this looks like in a normal week: toast frozen bread for breakfast without thawing. Grab a tortilla, heat it, and fill it with whatever's in the fridge for a quick wrap. Warm a frozen baguette in the oven alongside a pot of soup. Fresh bread with dinner, no extra trip to the store. Now, vegetables get interesting. 8. Frozen broccoli. Frozen broccoli has an image problem. People assume it's mushy, flavorless, and only for people who've stopped trying. That reputation isn't entirely fair. The vitamin C argument, that fresh broccoli is more nutritious, falls apart once you cook it. Heat destroys most vitamin C regardless of whether the broccoli started fresh or frozen. You're not preserving much by buying fresh if you're going to steam or roast it anyway. What you are losing with fresh broccoli is money and time. That bunch in the produce section might have spent 2 weeks in transit. By the time you buy it, nutrients have already degraded. Then half of it rots in your fridge before you use it. Frozen broccoli goes from field to bag within hours. There have been listeria recalls on mixed frozen vegetables, so the vegetables are always safe assumption can backfire. Know your brands. Check lot codes. When you buy smart, the value is clear. A pound of frozen florets costs about $2. Fresh broccoli runs double that, and you're paying for stems you'll probably throw away. Steam and bag versions cook in 4 minutes. No chopping, no pots, no cleanup. The slight softness from freezing is actually useful. Frozen broccoli absorbs sauces and seasonings better than fresh, which tends to stay slick. What this looks like after a long day: microwave a steam and bag, add garlic butter or soy sauce, and you have a vegetable side before you've decided on the main course. Dump frozen florets into a skillet with chicken and teriyaki for a one-pan dinner, or blend it into potato soup to make it creamy while adding nutrition no one will notice. Here's a vegetable with even more range. 9. Frozen edamame. If your protein sources are mostly deli meat, bacon, and sausage, your next blood panel will probably reflect it. Edamame is one of the rare plant foods that provides complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids. Most vegetables can't make that claim. You may have seen internet warnings about soy and hormones. The actual research on moderate soy consumption is reassuring for most people. It's been a dietary staple in Japan for over 2,000 years without the problems some corners of the internet predict. A half cup of shelled edamame delivers 9 grams of protein and 4 grams of fiber for around 100 calories. That's a better nutritional profile than most packaged snacks. Pods or shelled? Pods are fun at restaurants. There's something satisfying about popping the beans out. But at home on a weeknight, nobody has time for that. Shelled edamame gets straight to the point. 3 ways to use them. Keep a bag of pods in the freezer for evening snacking. Microwave for 3 minutes, sprinkle with sea salt, and you've got something to munch that isn't chips or crackers. Toss shelled edamame into a salad or grain bowl for protein without cooking anything extra. Or blend them with garlic, lemon, and olive oil for a quick dip when someone drops by unexpectedly. Speaking of things from the ocean. 10. Frozen fish fillets. Unless you live near the coast, that fresh fish at the counter probably spent 2 weeks on ice before reaching your store. The label says fresh. The timeline says otherwise. Fish frozen on the boat hits around minus 31 degrees within hours of being caught. It's locked in at peak quality while fresh fish slowly degrades during its cross-country journey. Here's something that surprises most people. Sushi-grade fish is required by regulation to be frozen before serving. The freezing kills parasites. So frozen fish isn't just acceptable for high-end preparations, it's legally mandated. Concerns about mislabeling, parasites, and contaminants are legitimate, but properly handled frozen fish is often the safer choice, especially if you're hundreds of miles from an ocean. Omega-3 fatty acids, the healthy fats that make fish worth eating, remain stable in vacuum-sealed frozen salmon for 6 months. No degradation. My preferred method, cook fish straight from frozen. It takes about 50% longer, but the interior stays moist while the exterior develops a proper crust. No more dried-out fillets. Look for wild-caught with clear origin labeling. Avoid packages with visible ice crystals, which suggest temperature fluctuations or refreezing. Easy fish dinners. Put a frozen salmon fillet on a sheet pan with green beans and lemon slices. Bake at 400 for 25 minutes. No thawing needed. Warm tortillas and make fish tacos with baked cod, shredded cabbage, and lime. Or drop cut-up fillets into simmering broth with corn and potatoes for a quick chowder. Speaking of corn. 11. Frozen corn. Fresh corn has a tiny window of perfection, maybe 6 hours after picking. After that, the sugars rapidly convert to starch. By the time corn reaches most grocery stores, it's already lost a significant portion of its sweetness. That nostalgic summer corn flavor isn't coming from a supermarket ear that's been sitting in a bin for days. Frozen corn is blanched and sealed within hours of harvest, capturing the sweetness before it fades. Here's a detail most people don't know. The corn varieties grown specifically for freezing are actually different from fresh market varieties. They're bred to retain their sugar content through the freezing process. Frozen corn isn't just preserved fresh corn, it's often a superior variety for eating. Some people avoid corn because they consider it just sugar or worry about GMOs. But if your main complaint is that fresh corn doesn't taste as good as you remember, the issue is probably how long it sat before you bought it. 3 ways to use it. Add a cup directly to chili or soup in the last 10 minutes. The natural starches help thicken the liquid while adding sweetness. Heat a dry skillet until it's very hot. Throw in frozen corn, let it sit without stirring until it chars, then toss with butter, chili powder, and lime for indoor street corn. Or stir it into a cold bean salad with cilantro for a potluck dish that takes 5 minutes. But corn isn't the only freezer hero. 12. Frozen meatballs. Meatballs might be the single most freezer-friendly protein. Here's why. When you reheat frozen meatballs in sauce, they stay tender instead of turning rubbery, something that's surprisingly hard to achieve with most cooked meats. Italian grandmothers figured this out generations ago. Batch cooking and freezing meatballs isn't cutting corners. It's traditional technique. The problem is store-bought quality. Cheap frozen meatballs can contain fillers, excessive sodium, and unidentifiable meat scraps. Not ideal for anyone watching their heart health. Some brands have faced criticism for undeclared ingredients and misleading labels. Quick way to sort good from bad. Check the protein content per serving. Higher protein generally means more actual meat and less filler. The convenience is hard to beat. Frozen meatballs go from freezer to simmering marinara in 25 minutes. No handling raw meat, no shaping, no mess. A certain Swedish furniture store sells around 150 million meatballs every year. People walk in for a bookshelf and leave with dinner. That's universal appeal. Tuesday night meatball dinners. Drop them frozen into a jar of marinara, simmer for 25 minutes, serve over pasta. Heat them in gravy with a bag of egg noodles for a Swedish-style meal that tastes like it took effort. Or pile them on a hoagie roll with melted provolone for meatball subs everyone will eat. Here's a vegetable with surprising range. 13. Frozen riced cauliflower. Cauliflower's reputation has finally caught up with its usefulness. Eating white rice and potatoes at every meal can gradually work against blood sugar and weight management. That's not alarmism, it's how carbohydrates function for many bodies. Frozen riced cauliflower cooks in 5 minutes. No food processor, no mess, no white dust settling on every surface of your kitchen. A lot of people tried a bad cauliflower product once, a soggy pizza crust or flavorless mash, and wrote off the whole category. That's understandable. Some cauliflower products are genuinely terrible, but plain riced cauliflower works. Cauliflower has a neutral flavor that survives freezing without turning bitter or sulfurous like cabbage or Brussels sprouts sometimes do. It cooperates. Want to cut carbs without announcing it? Mix frozen cauliflower rice into mashed potatoes. You reduce the calorie density significantly while adding fiber. Most people won't notice the difference. The cell structure breakdown from freezing actually helps. Cauliflower blends into soups and sauces more smoothly than fresh. 3 ways to use it. Microwave a bag and stir it half and half into mashed potatoes. Familiar comfort, fewer carbs. Stir fry it with soy sauce, garlic, and whatever protein you have for a low-carb bowl. Or add it to broccoli cheddar soup to thicken without cream. Here's an underrated freezer staple. 14. Frozen bananas. Those spotted browning bananas on your counter aren't garbage. They're dessert waiting to happen. Over 1 million bananas get thrown away in America every day. Most of that waste is unnecessary. Freeze bananas at peak ripeness, when they're covered in brown spots but not yet mushy, and you've got the base for dairy-free soft serve. Not ice cream style, not frozen dessert. Actual creamy, scoopable texture. The common mistake, freezing bananas whole with the peel still on. Once frozen, that peel turns into a shell you cannot remove without a hacksaw and determination. Always peel before freezing. There's a lot of guilt around desserts and sugar. The idea that eating healthy means giving up treats entirely. That's not realistic, and it doesn't work long term. Frozen bananas are a guilt-free loophole. 3 ways to use them. Blend 1 frozen banana with a tablespoon of cocoa powder for 60 seconds. Instant chocolate soft serve. No equipment needed beyond a blender. Add chunks to your morning smoothie instead of ice. The texture comes out thicker and creamier. Or thaw a few slices and mash them into pancake batter on Sunday for naturally sweet pancakes without added sugar. Here are aromatics that deserve freezer space. 15. Frozen ginger and garlic. Fresh ginger and garlic are the backbone of flavorful cooking. They're also deeply annoying to keep around. Fresh ginger shrivels into a dry, wrinkled root within 2 weeks. Garlic bulbs sprout bitter green shoots, and the smell from mincing garlic lingers on your fingers for hours no matter how much you wash. When aromatics are inconvenient, people skip them. Skipping them makes home cooking bland. Bland home cooking pushes you toward restaurants and takeout, which are expensive and usually loaded with sodium. Here's the solution most people overlook. Frozen ginger actually grates better than fresh. The fibers break down during freezing, producing a finer texture without stringy bits clogging your grater. Frozen garlic cubes drop directly into hot oil. No peeling, no chopping, no lingering smell on your hands at 11 p.m. on a weeknight. Some people distrust jarred, minced garlic, and that suspicion is often justified. Many brands are low quality or loaded with preservatives. Frozen is a cleaner alternative. The flavor compounds in both ginger and garlic stay potent for 6 months in the freezer. When these aromatics are always on hand, you stop leaving them out. Your cooking improves automatically. What this looks like in practice. Drop a frozen garlic cube into hot oil before adding anything else. Instant flavor base for stir fries, pasta sauce, or vegetables. Grate frozen ginger directly into soup or marinade without fighting stringy fibers. Or toss both into a slow cooker with chicken and soy sauce in the morning for dinner that actually tastes like you made an effort. Here's dough that improves with freezing. 16. Frozen pizza dough. The economics of pizza night rarely get examined. $25 delivery pizzas and salty frozen pies drain money and don't do your health any favors. It's an expensive habit that compounds over time. Most people assume fresh dough is superior. Professional pizzerias know better. Many pizza shops freeze their dough balls as standard practice. The slow thaw actually improves the final product. Yeast continues developing flavor in the cold, building complexity that rushed dough can't match. Store-bought frozen dough transforms overnight in your refrigerator. By morning, it's risen, relaxed, and stretches without fighting back. Making pizza from frozen dough takes about 15 minutes of hands-on work. Making dough from scratch takes 2 hours minimum, plus the flour explosion to clean up. Frozen yeast stays dormant, but alive. The moment temperature rises, those organisms wake up and get to work. Pizza dough is versatile. The same frozen ball becomes calzones, breadsticks, or focaccia with 0 additional ingredients. One technique tip: stretch the dough while it's still slightly cold. It won't snap back, giving you that thin, crispy crust that restaurants charge a premium for. Friday night options: stretch the dough, add sauce and cheese and whatever frozen vegetables you have. Homemade pizza in 20 minutes. Fold it in half with ricotta and spinach for a calzone, or roll it into sticks, brush with garlic butter, and bake alongside soup for fresh breadsticks that cost almost nothing. Now for some items most people never think to freeze. 17. Shredded cheese. Every block of cheese that molds in your fridge is money wasted. On a fixed income, those losses accumulate into real dollars over a year. Pre-shredded bags cost more per ounce and often contain anti-caking agents that some people's stomachs don't tolerate well. The smarter approach: buy blocks on sale, shred them yourself, and freeze in thin bags. Frozen shredded cheese keeps for months and melts normally for cooking. Look for actual cheese with short ingredient lists. Avoid anything labeled cheese product or with additives you can't pronounce. How to use it without thinking. Grab a handful straight from the freezer to top a casserole before it goes in the oven. Sprinkle on a tortilla, fold and heat in a skillet for a quesadilla in 3 minutes. Toss over soup, chili, or a baked potato for extra protein without any prep. 18. Frozen mixed vegetable medleys. When chopping vegetables becomes painful from arthritis, fatigue, or just life being overwhelming, many people quietly stop eating them. They default to beige frozen dinners or skip vegetables entirely. That's precisely what doctors warn against. Different medleys serve different purposes. Stir-fry mixes, soup starter blends, mirepoix bases, they're complete meal starters that require 0 knife work. Remember the September 2025 recall of frozen peas and carrots for listeria? The assumption that vegetables are automatically safe doesn't hold. Check brands and lot codes. When you choose carefully, these medleys become lifesavers on exhausting days. What dinner looks like when you're tired. Dump a bag of stir-fry vegetables into a hot skillet with frozen shrimp and soy sauce. 15 minutes to a complete meal. Pour soup starter vegetables into broth with canned beans and whatever pasta you have for a filling soup. Layer a medley in a baking dish with leftover chicken and cream of mushroom soup for a casserole that assembles itself. 19. Frozen pre-cooked rice and grains. On depleted days, this is the difference between a real meal and mindless snacking. Those "I'll just have crackers and cheese" evenings are how weight and blood sugar gradually creep up. It's not any single night, it's the pattern. Some people assume instant or frozen rice is processed junk. Some products are, some aren't. Read labels. Short ingredient lists are what you want. The formula is simple. Frozen grains plus frozen vegetables plus some protein equals a complete dinner in 10 to 15 minutes with one pan. Bird's Eye Steam Fresh, Ben's Original, Trader Joe's frozen brown rice. These are reasonable options with minimal additives. 3 fast meals. Microwave a bag of rice, top with leftover rotisserie chicken, and frozen broccoli for a grain bowl in 5 minutes. Scramble eggs in a skillet, add frozen rice and soy sauce for quick fried rice. Or heat rice alongside curry from a jar for a dinner that looks planned. 20. Frozen cookie dough. The snack aisle is engineered to separate you from your money and your willpower. One impulse purchase leads to another. A planned freezer treat prevents dozens of impulsive junk food buys. This isn't about deprivation, it's strategy. The anxiety around sugar and desserts is real. So is the guilt about wanting comfort food. But absolute restriction rarely works long-term. The smarter approach, control portion and quality. Frozen cookie dough lets you bake 2 or 3 cookies at a time. Fresh from the oven, better ingredients than most packaged sweets, and no open bag tempting you to finish it. Nestle Toll House, Pillsbury, or homemade dough logs portioned and frozen. The DIY option gives you complete control over ingredients. How to use this responsibly. Slice off 2 rounds while cleaning up dinner. Warm cookies for dessert in 12 minutes. Keep some frozen for when grandkids visit so you can offer fresh baked cookies without a store run. Crumble a baked cookie over vanilla yogurt or sliced fruit for a simple dessert that feels like more. Your freezer just shifted from forgotten storage space to strategic asset. Not a graveyard for food you'll never eat. Not where good intentions go to rot. A practical tool that saves money, cuts waste, protects your health, and makes weeknight cooking realistic. 20 items. That's the foundation. If you're between 50 and 70, this is how you keep eating well, maintain your independence, and protect the savings you spent decades building, without defaulting to canned soup and delivery pizza. Stock it smart. Check your recalls. Read your labels. Stop feeling guilty about frozen food while fresh produce rots in your refrigerator. With grocery prices climbing and weather getting less predictable, a well-planned freezer isn't just convenient, it's practical security. The smartest cooks have known this for years. Now you do too. If this video brought you value, think about sharing it with someone who could use this information. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us bring you more videos like this one. Speaking of which, click on the video YouTube is showing you right now. It was carefully selected for you. See you in the next one.